Your eyes open really widely in the final cab ride scene. It's the first time you have that look on your face the whole movie, too.
Yeah. I just think it's, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's just kind of, and there's the use of there's a lot of blackouts in this film, which you don't see very often, but they're pretty effective, I think. They're hard to pull off, but they work in this.
Yeah.
And I think that probably has something to do with the transition there.
Yeah, there was a lot of fuss at one point about taking off the epilogue, but it's always, to me, like that, seeing him at the end is like...
that last shot is like just the best shot. And that was a totally improvised shot. We had been shooting the train car, diner car scene all night, and a whole other scene that's not even in the movie anymore. And literally, like, the sun was just about to come up. I was seeing, like, double. I didn't know what was going on. And Noah's like, hey, wait, don't leave yet. I'm like, dude, what? So I'm going to lay the camera on the ground over here. I'm like, oh, that's a brilliant idea, Noah. Why don't you just lay the camera on the ground over there by the train tracks? You're a genius. And then I see that shot. I'm like, oh, my God, it's so beautiful.
Well, and I remember when we got that shot, the very last shot where Mike is smoking on the tracks, and we got that shot in the dailies, and it was like, oh, we'll just put it in the middle somewhere with sort of the script notes. And I was like, I mean, it just blew me out of the water. And we couldn't figure out what to do with it, and couldn't figure out what to do with it. And then we were sort of putting that epilogue together. And it is very different. It's very differently shot. It's much more saturated. The camera is still on those like inserts. It's a brightly lit diner. Like, it's supposed to have a very different feel. And we didn't want to go out on them walking down the street like that. And then we had this brainstorm. It was like, oh, go get that shot. And we had it in the train sequence at that point. And it was like, no, we can't use that in the middle of the movie. That's the end. That's the last image. And it still gets me. Every time we're looking at that shot and he walks off and he says, I remember back to when I had you, it gets me every time. And it's like one of those magic things that you just sort of stumble on.
Yeah, it's really nice. And also, the movie wasn't shot in sequence either, right?
No, we shot the first 2 weeks in New York and the second 2 weeks in L.A., which basically means, like, we shot the beginning and the ending of the movie first in New York, and then we shot the middle in L.A. So that was kind of weird.
But I mean, you're done quite a few films, so you're probably used to working out of sequence. But what challenges did that present for you on this film?
I don't know if it was really a challenge, but it is interesting because they're almost like they're two very different feels. Like the stuff that. Are you okay? What happened?
Right back there.
Somebody fall down?
Okay. Thank you.
But you know, obviously, what's going on in New York is very serious, and then the LA stuff is where some of the more surreal kind of a lot of the humorous parts of it. So it's kind of like I got to take the hard exam first, and then go to take the easy exam, which is kind of a nice feeling. Yeah.
I think we got time for one or two more questions. There's somebody right here on the corner. Ma'am.
Oh,
there you go.
Could you talk a little bit about working on the Runaways?
Oh, the Runaways, yeah. Are you a fan of the Runaways? Yeah, that was fun. It was this summer. I shot it over the summer, and I was shooting the pilot for Boardwalk Empire at the same time, and then shoots in New York, and then my family, my girlfriend and my daughter, were in Washington D.C. because my girlfriend was doing a play there. So I was literally going back and forth between those three cities. I'd go to L.A., shoot 3 days, go to New York, shoot a couple days, go down to D.C., watch my daughter for a couple days, go back to L.A. Like I was just going, it was like a pinball. So it was a little dizzying, but and I didn't think I was going to be able to do the Runaways because of Boardwalk Empire. They were saying the schedule wouldn't work out, so it only came together at the last minute. So I didn't have a lot of time to prepare. So I just started watching. I play Kim Fowley, and He's on the internet. He's got a lot of little clips on the internet, and I just started watching it over and over. Particularly this, he was on the Tom Snyder show. It's a really interesting episode, actually. It's him and Bill Graham and Joan Jett and Paul Weller from The Jam, and this guy who was the LA Times music critic at the time. Can't remember his name. But yeah, he's on there in all his glory. So I watched that clip like 500 times over and over, and yeah, it was great. I mean, Kristen and Dakota were very dedicated to the parts. They'd studied with Joan and Cherie. They'd been spending all their time together, and Joan was there every day on the set. She's one of the producers, and she was very involved. And I saw it at Sundance. Jim saw it. It's, you know, it's kind of like what you expect a rock and roll movie. You know, they get good, and then they take too many drugs, and they get screwed up, and then one of them falls apart, and then.
But you get to watch Michael as Kim Fowley, and it's really a treat. It's worth going to see the movie for. It's
cool.
Really a great performance. So.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, maybe one more question, and there's somebody. Let's get one more here, and then there's one more over there, and then we'll call it a night.
Michael, your speech seems naturally slurred, so I'm curious as to what extent you used real-life experiences with substance use and abuse and brought it to the movie.
Oh, well, I've had a couple of drinks in my time. I am from Chicago, so yeah, I don't know. It's historically, it's a very tricky thing playing someone who drinks. Or I hear people say, I don't really know. Like, everybody's got some trick. It's like, oh well, if you got to play drunk, then you do this or you do that, or you try as hard as you can not to act drunk, or you there's some special trick that they have. But to me, it's just like. I mean, honestly, being on that train, you kind of feel drunk anyway. Because we were on a train that was actually moving. It was really cool, actually. We were able to get on a train in L.A., and we took it down to San Diego, and that's where we shot a lot of the train sequences. So the train was, like, really teetering back and forth, so that helped. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I just used... my imagination, or just, I don't really know. I don't really have a great answer to that question. No.
More specifically, before he picks up the stethoscope,
yeah.
He picks up the drink. He gets the drink before he puts the stethoscope up against the wall. It's as if he didn't want to invade the privacy.
Right.
And he wanted to put the wall of the drink in there to keep a separation going.
Well, he's a guy who's constantly bracing himself, you know? I mean, it's like every second of his life he's trying to sum up the strength to even deal with it, you know? I mean, it's like he says in the beginning of the movie, I could have laid there forever, but the phone rang. I mean, this is all, everything that he does is done with incredible reluctance, and he's not even sure why he's doing it. You know, he's a mystery even unto himself. You know, until he's not, until he kind of figures it out, and then he stops drinking. I guess that's a pretty archetypal journey for some people. Yeah.